Brian Kelly did it. On Saturday, about 4:30 p.m., the #1 quarterback in America announced his decision, and Bryce Underwood, he's an LSU Tiger, and now LSU has the #1 class in the country. But in this video, we're going to find out what is next for LSU. That's why I'm bringing in insider Shea Dixon. But first, LSU fans, what a time to follow recruiting. Hit subscribe for me to the On3 Recruits channel. We're going to be doing this thing all year round. We want you to be a part of it. Hit subscribe for me, please. All right. Let's bring on the man himself, Shea Dixon from the Bengal Tiger. Now, Shea, we're going to take me behind the scenes of this Bryce Underwood recruitment. We know he took visits. We know there was a long-standing relationship. But when did you know? When did it hit you like, hey, LSU is going to land the #1 quarterback in America?
I think if I look back on it, and yes, look, you mentioned the visits. He goes from Michigan to Louisiana 4 times in the span of 6 months. He did it on very important weekends, like his mom's birthday, his parents' anniversary. He was at the Bayou Splash recruiting event, which was their big kind of end of the summer deal. And then he was at a game. So all of those things led me to believe, hey, LSU's in really good position. And then, Josh, I'll couple that with they had the #1 offense from about a month in all the way till the end of the season. And now they finished with the #1 offense. They had a Heisman winner in Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
I think I still would probably go back to around the same time someone, I can't remember his name, might be the host of this show, put in his pick, the very first pick on Underwood to land at LSU. And that's that I entered this season thinking it was a 50-50 battle with LSU and Michigan. When in November, Michigan took a quarterback a quarterback commitment from Carter Smith, who is no scrub, one of the best quarterbacks in America. It sort of felt like a waving the white flag on Underwood. And after that, it became clear to me that, hey, if Michigan, the in-state team, is going to go ahead and say, hey, look, we like Carter Smith. We don't really love where things are trending with Bryce Underwood. Let's get him on board. That told me that the work LSU had done was probably going to be enough. And then I look up and they have the #1 offense. They're about to have a Heisman winner. All of these different things really then made me feel good about it from then on out. So I'll say when Michigan took a quarterback commit, that's when I felt very good about LSU's chances.
All right. And to everybody that, wants to give me the credit for putting in the first pick, sure, go ahead. Give me all the credit. But in reality, I understand it's a lot different for Shea's perspective being the site publisher. I'm not a site publisher. I'm not on the message boards every day. I don't have to answer these questions every single day. So, of course, when I felt good about Bryce Underwood to LSU, one of the first phone calls I made was to Shea Dixon to say, hey, am I crazy about this? And, Shea was definitely on board. But for me to put in a pick for LSU that early, there's a lot less pressure on me. So Shea, you've had this thing covered. You were confident in the same time frame that I was. So I just wanted to make sure people knew that you're just as plugged in.
Well, go to the page and see. My confidence score was at 90%, Josh. So I really let it out there.
All right. Now, I got to ask this, and all the LSU fans on the message board are going to be mad at me for asking this, but I got to because of the day and age of recruiting that we're in. Is Bryce Underwood's commitment going to be one of those things where the LSU staff is constantly going to be having to hover over him and recruit him and keep him recruited or keep him committed? Or does Bryce Underwood have the ability to be the bell cow of this class to go out and recruit for LSU from now until National Signing Day?
Look, I think it can be a little bit of both. Here's the dirty little secret of college recruiting, and it didn't just start in the NIL era or any of that. 75-80% of your class is being recruited nonstop by the coaching staff, because even when you get that commitment, other schools want visits. Other schools want to at least get an in-home visit or whatever it might be, invite them to summer camp, all these different things where they get them to campus. So when we're talking about, really, honestly, I feel 70 to 75% of a class, there's no doubt that the #1 overall prospect in the country, who's a quarterback, other teams aren't giving up. So, yes, LSU is going to have to continue to say, hey, look, every day we're on the phone with them. We're talking to them. We're keeping an open line of dialogue about where the program's headed, how we see him fitting. But I think right now LSU fans can enjoy this one because Bryce made his decision. He had plenty of time to make it. You can say, even though he is the #1 quarterback, that quite often when quarterbacks make a decision, they don't usually flip. We have seen instances of it here recently, but look, Bryce Underwood has said, even after his commitment, he said, I'm an LSU Tiger for life. And I honestly believe that he sees LSU from a personality, from NFL, from a competitive SEC, all these different levels of fit. I think he sees that at LSU. So I would feel good right now about them holding on to him. And yes, we are 12 months out from signing day.
Yeah, and you should. Hey, we're in the wake of his commitment. There's no reason right now to be talking about a decommitment or a flip. But when that time comes, we'll be sure to cover it here on the Inside Scoop. All right, moving on. LSU stacking number ones at their position. Number one quarterback, Bryce Underwood. Number one running back, Harlow Berry. Number one wide receiver, DeCorian Moore. But Shea, what is next for LSU fans? Who do they need to get excited about? What recruit is now target number one?
I think you turn the focus obviously to defense because you'd like to see some guys get on board, and that's really something we'll figure out with this coaching change. Look, they just named Blake Baker as DC. They still have to fill out an entire defensive staff. So if that's on pause for a second, that makes sense. But Jabari Antoine in Louisiana is the number 2 corner in the country. If there's a position LSU really, really would love to land a guy at that's kind of a 5-star caliber guy, in addition to who they have, it would be at corner. So Jabari Antoine from 45 minutes down the road here in Baton Rouge, over in New Iberia, an hour drive, however fast you go on the interstate. That's your backyard. You should be able to lock up a guy like that. That'll be priority number 1. But then I would just expand to all of Louisiana and East Texas. That's where they've put in a ton of work. It's a deep Louisiana 2025 class. It's a deep East Texas class. So I think if they can continue to build on that momentum, that'll be key. But as I've said many times before, and now that he's on board, what does a player like Bryce Underwood, the number 1 overall prospect in the country, what sort of attention does that draw from other recruits? And that can mean a more national approach to at least a couple of players in this class.
All right. Before I let you go, let's rewind to 2024. Remember, that cycle doesn't end officially until February 7th when National Signing Day is on. LSU currently sitting at number 7 overall with a big push from Don McKinley. It brought them from number 9 to number 7. Shea, can we see this class finish top 5? What's going on? Is there a big piece of the puzzle still left out on the board?
A top 5 finish would probably mean another 5-star, and that's Terry Bussey, who's been committed to the Aggies. And look, LSU flipped 4 A&M commits this cycle, but they still are chasing one more. Has been a standout at Timpson. He's listed as an athlete, one of the best players in the country, and he's still available. Committed to A&M, and Josh, you'll remember, he and Dominic McKinley were 2 A&M commitments who said, I'm not signing early. I want to wait till February to see how things look. Well, Dominic McKinley out of Louisiana has already flipped to LSU, a 5-star defensive tackle. That's 4 players that LSU has flipped out of A&M's class, and all being pretty big ones, including Gabe Relaford, another D lineman here in Louisiana. But you look ahead to February signing day, certainly Terry Bussey jumps out. As I said, an athlete. They could really use him in the defensive secondary. So safety, maybe nickel, one of those positions, but he is a dynamic player. I will say, out of all the A&M guys that seem to have committed to the Aggies, he's one we always thought would end up there. So it's no surprise that he's still committed, but he's giving other teams a look, a number of SEC teams. LSU's in that mix. They'll try to get him back on campus in January. They've already had the official visit, but are they able to shake things up one more time? Because 4 flips from one school is a big, big deal in one cycle. Can they get to 5? We'll see. I still think that Bussey is a guy who wants to be at A&M, but does he see it as a fit there? And I'll say this too, Josh. We'll bring a little coaching stuff into this. Who does LSU hire in the secondary? And could it be a guy whose name's been tossed around, TJ Rushing, who was A&M's safeties coach, who was recruiting Bussey and didn't get retained by Mike Elko and that staff? So there could be more at play here than just Bussey. It's also what Bussey said. I want to see how all of these staffs come together defensively. Then I'll make my decision. I think those sort of things are wrinkles that people may not pay attention to, but if it happens or if things fall in certain directions, a team like that can suddenly surge.
Yeah, and I certainly see a path for LSU to potentially finish with the top 5 class. What a finish it would be. Already adding Dominic McKinley is huge on the defensive line, but adding somebody like a Terry Bussey, a 5-star athlete out of the state of Texas, would be huge. A lot to follow in the month of January. Shea Dixon, thank you for dropping by today on the Inside Scoop.
Yep, we'll do it again soon. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.